What we've got here today is a Homelite chainsaw. It's got very little use, but it doesn't run. Fuel lines are all rotten off inside the tank. Everything's falling down in there. The filter's falling off. The chain is a disaster. Absolutely demolished. I can probably sharpen it, bring it back, drop the rakes a little bit. That's a safety chain. I might just get a new chain for it, I'm not sure. But this is another flipper. This one's got the no tools required chain tension system. You would just loosen this off, just the same as taking the nuts out, loosening them, and you would roll this up for tighter and down for looser. You can actually, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the bar is moving in, the chain's getting loose. Get you tilted just a little bit. Just a little. Okay, so I'll roll the adjuster forward now. You can see the chain is actually working its way in, back into the bar. Not my favorite, but they work. What we're going to do is, because I got to tear into this and get into the fuel tank, and I'm probably going to end up taking the carburetor off, I'm just going to take the whole bar and chain right off. Just get it out of our way. Just push and turn this, and we'll get the clutch cover out of here. There we go. This just pops right off. A little dirty in there. We'll get that all blown out, clear it up. Slide the bar back, unhook the chain. There we go. Bar's in tough shape. You'll see where it was dull and overheated. You're going to catch that on the focus, but it's actually got some purple edges on it. It's been very hot. Sprocket tip. Well, sprocket's okay. There's a little tiny grease hole here that's going to get some grease when we put it back together and get the chain sharp. Might actually, no, I'm not sure. If it's a flipper, I always take these off my own saw. I'm not recommending you do that. It is a safety device. When the chain is flipping around the nose here, if you actually come in contact with something, the chain moving down around the nose will actually make that bar jump. It could actually jump right up at you. So that's what that's for. It is a safety device. If it was my own, I would take it off because I've been running chainsaws for quite a while and it gets in my way. I can't do plunge cuts with it. But because it's a flipper, I'll probably just clean it up, put it back on. That way the next user doesn't catch a chain in the forehead. Okay, well, let's get this stuff out of the way. We'll get the saw turned around so we can get it on camera a little better. And then we'll tear in, see what happens. Okay, so I've got the bar off, and I want to give you a shot of inside there to see what's going on. You can see that there's a bunch of rubble in there. The fuel line is actually rotted off and hanging. As soon as I touch it with pliers, try and remove it, it just breaks into pieces. So we're gonna have to get right to the top of the tank to get that out. Sometimes you can remove them without removing all the recoil starter and everything, but not in this case. So I'm just gonna grab my little impact gun. We're gonna pull recoil off. See, 3, 4. There's one here. That's a different size. That's a 20. Pull the one screw out of the chain brake. Doesn't look like it wants to come off. There's something going on under the cover. It might be a nut that holds that on. Or I might not need to take it off. So we can get that a little wiggle and see if it'll pop out. Let's get the oil cap off. No, it's in the way. I'll pull the top cover off. Not much oil left in there, but I don't want it all over my bench, so I'll flip that cap back on there. Let's see what we got for cover bolts. Looks like 20. T20. I've never had one of these apart, actually. This is never had this particular model apart. going on in there? Grab a little screwdriver. Might be stuck, might be a fastener, I'm not sure. Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe it just slides back. I can't get it to go over the... Well, part of it. Anyway. Huh. Usually top covers are easy to come off. You gotta get in there and clean your air filter regularly. Oh, it was just stuck. That's it, just stuck. Okay, so we've got the 2 screws out of the cover. So I'm gonna just flip that upside down, drop the screws in it, put it to the side so we don't lose things. I'm sure the saw has never been apart. There's the air filter. It's almost spotless. I think previous owner bought it for one project, used it and put it in the garage and never ran again. It's likely the issue. Yeah, and there is a little nut in behind here that I need to get to. I was trying to get the bolt out of the recoil starter and it wouldn't come out, so it was just spinning. So we'll grab a pair of needle nose. A regular T20 screwdriver instead of a little impact gun. I'll try and reach in there and hold the nut while I turn the screw. Might be interesting to get that nut back in. Nut is off. Screws coming out. I'm more used to working on steel and Husqvarna chainsaws. Don't typically get into Homelites. There we go. But of all the small engine stuff that I do, all the random things that I work on, I gotta say, chainsaws are my least favorite. There, the recoil's off. Strange designs. Okay, pop that to the side. We can see our fuel tank here. I can see where the lines go into the tank. They are right. Try and get you a picture. Right here. One line is here, and one line is here. There and there. And they just push through the plastic, and the outside diameter of the hose is what prevents it from leaking. So that one is just slid onto the carburetor. Get you zoomed in and get a little bit of a better picture. I'm looking in the monitor of the camera and it's upside down to me, so it's hard for me to judge what you're looking at. As long as you're looking at the same thing I am, we're okay. So that's the one line, and this is the other line. This one just goes directly onto the carburetor, so I should just be able to pick that off with needle nose pliers. The other one goes to the primer bulb, it looks like, way on the other side of the saw over here. So let's see if I can wiggle that out and without too much difficulty. Just going to give a little twist on the line where it attaches to the carburetor. Pull it off the carburetor fitting, and you can see right there, that little restriction on the outside of the line, that is where it was pressed through the fuel tank. And as soon as I tried to pull out, the other piece that was in the tank fell into the tank. So that's in there. Looks like it's gone forever. We'll flush it all out and get all that garbage out of there. Yeah, that's the primer line. So I was able to pick that one out. The actual fuel feed line is not in such good shape. Actually, this hose is like new. That's definitely the primer line. It's like new. It's nice and firm. It's not flaky. It's not falling apart. It's perfectly resilient, nice and rubbery and squishy. It's not hardened up and dried up like this one. I might just change the feed line. Hold this out of the way and flush that tank out with some brake clean. Get all the debris out of the bottom. We'll end up putting our new fuel line on there, our fuel line filter. It's a little weight that you hook onto the feed line, and it's weighted on the end, and it's the filter for the pickup. So if you're running the saw like normal, the fuel line stays at the bottom of the tank. But if you flip the saw on its side to be like cutting down a tree, horizontal cuts, this will drop into the lowest part of the tank and still pick up fuel. Weed whackers, chainsaws, things that are used on more than one angle usually have a weighted filter like that. Alright, let's shake that out. Make sure there's no loose parts gonna fall off. Better put my oil cap back on. Just gonna take it off the bench there and try and see if I can get some of that junk out. Well, we got some coming out. Not a lot. I might actually just drop some fuel in there and flush it. Some brake clean, loosen up the stuff off the bottom. It seemed to work a little bit. We'll get it figured out. What I'm going to do is probably put a little more brake clean in there. I'll turn the saw upside down off the bench and blow compressed air into the tank, and should shoot the debris out. But you don't need to listen to that compressor buzzing away, so I'll come back when it's cleaned out. I had to get you guys flipped around here so you could see what I was doing. I'm right-handed, so I need to work from this side, but the camera was on the other side and it wasn't working for me. So I've got a small piece of fuel line here. What I'm going to do is, or what I have done, is I've just cut the end, focus, just cut the end on a bit of an angle. That'll help me get it started into the fuel tank. When you're replacing fuel lines like this, the inside diameter of the tubing and the outside diameter of the tubing matter, because it has to fit onto the outlet for the carburetor, and the filter has to fit in it, as well as the outside diameter, the OD, has to be big enough to seal that fuel tank so the fuel doesn't leak out around the hose. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by just tucking that in there a little bit with my fingers. Get it in as far as I can. I'm just going to reach into the opening of the fuel tank with a pair of needle nose and grab a hold of the little piece sticking in there and assist pulling it through, feeding at the same time. It's nice and snug in the tank. It's not coming out when I just pull on it, so it seems to be working okay. At this point, what I'll do is I'll pull a bunch through with the pliers, and I'll cut the end flush. Where I cut that angle, I'll cut the end flush. We'll fit our filter on there. It's been rolling around my workbench for a bit, so let's get that cleaned up. Some brake clean. That's good. Okay, we'll get that fit on the end of the fuel line. It's got to be a nice, snug fit. Push it all the way on as far as you can get it right to the base. That way you'll help ensure it doesn't fall off. I'm going to pull enough back in to allow that weight to drop all the way to the bottom of the tank when it's on its side like this. That should give us the right depth of line inside the tank there. That looks good. I'm going to give it a little bit more. I'm going to figure out here what I need to attach to the carburetor. Just give it just a little bit more, give us some wiggle room. We'll snip that off. And now I can attach it to the little fitting on the carburetor. Let's see if you can get a picture of that. Down. It's got to go in this little brass piece right there. Gotta try and fit that on there. Try not to get in your way, but might not be able to help that. Gently, just try and wiggle it on there. Brand new fuel line is very flexible. It doesn't always like to behave. It has its own ideas of what it wants to do. There we go. We just got it started. Again, you want to put that on the fittings as far as you can. Help make sure they stay on there. Stay where you put them. Be very careful you don't cut the fuel line while you're doing this. You can nick it with pliers. Got it almost all the way onto the carburetor now. It's almost there. There we go. Perfect. Now, what I've found here is I left a little bit too much extra. There's a kink in the line here. That's nothing serious. All I'm going to do is reach back in here and fish that out, and I'll pull a little more line into the tank, and that'll straighten that kink right out. Perfect. It's exactly what we want. Doesn't hurt to have a tiny little bit extra inside the tank, but that is going to do very nicely. Beautiful. I'm not going to pull the carb apart yet. I'll put the recoil back on, and we'll put a little premix in there. We'll give it a test fire. See what happens. I'm going to pull the plug out and clean it. Make sure it's gapped okay before we go too far with it. But everything in here looks okay. Starter dogs are okay. They're nice and free. I didn't see any loose wires. I did look over things to make sure that stuff's where it needs to be. All the connectors that are in there are supposed to be where they are, because I don't like doing things twice. Once is enough. So we'll wiggle this recoil back in there. Bolt holes are somewhat lined up where they need to be. Oh. Just go under there. We are. Okay, that's good. I'll get those screws put back in, and then we can move things around without being too concerned with alignment issues later. Now these are coarse thread screws. They're threaded into plastic. It's very easy to strip them out. They don't have to be crazy tight. Get it in the hole. And especially on these, I always back it out. I'll back the screw out until it drops down on its thread, and then it starts easy. You don't want to cross thread these. I mean, it is plastic, it will make its own threads, but eventually if you keep making your own threads, there's going to be not much left. Okay, that's on, that's on. Put our oil cap back on. Leave the fuel cap off, it's absolutely bone dry. And by the way, when I put a little bit of brake clean in there, and then I flipped the whole saw upside down, and I shoved a blowgun inside that fuel tank, and everything came out. It was spotless inside that tank. It worked very, very well. Got all the little pieces of old hose out, and it seemed to work out very well for us. Okay. Pull that plug out. I don't think there's going to be a problem with it. Like I said, I think it only ran for minutes. That one? Yeah. Give her a little spin and we'll have a look. Not bad. I'm going to wire brush it, gap it, put it back in. You can run it on a wire wheel if you have one on your bench grinder, but for the amount that this is dirty, just a little cleaning will do just fine. I'd run it about 28 or so on these little plugs. 28. Actually, I want to run this by you. Get you on camera so you can see. Okay. So, currently this plug is reading 28 thou. If you were to set it, let's say the gap is 25. If you set it reading like that, where the center of the electrode is right on the 25, it's actually bigger. Because of the ramp design of this gapper, you want the leading edge of that bottom electrode, so you slide it in the small end here and then you roll it. You want the leading edge of this electrode to be at the number you want. So if I want 28 thou, that's where it needs to be. If I go further than that, it's actually going to be probably 30 thou. Anyway, just a little food for thought. Not that 2 thou is critical, but it is what it is. I want the spec to be right. I want it to be on. That's tight enough. Air filter's still clean. Never even got a chance to get dirty. Just pop that back down there. Get a plug wire back on. I don't really like running chainsaws without chain and everything engaged. So I'm going to end up putting it all back together. I don't want to overspeed that clutch. We'll put everything back together. We'll get back on it. I wonder how much of an issue this little tiny nut and bolt is going to be trying to get that back on. Actually, I'll put the top cover on. Let's see where it was stuck. I had a hard time getting that off. It was just stuck right here. I don't know. Maybe it is very close to the muffler there. Maybe I actually see some red plastic on the other side, so I think it got very hot. Yeah, there's actually a little bit of evidence. A little bit of evidence of it getting hot. Let's see if I can get it on the camera for you. Come on. So right there you can see that this heat shield's actually got some melted plastic on it. And down under here, there's a little bit of red plastic. So it got very hot and actually glued itself on. Well, now that we've had it off, it should go back on relatively easy. Got our screws. We know everything's good in there, everything's in place. Slide this animal back under. Got it hooked in where it's supposed to be. Well, it went in easier than it came off, that's for sure. Yeah, it is supposed to slide out. And your hook. Just having a hard time here with the front hook on the cover. There we go. Ish. Not a fan of these saws. Okay, we'll drop those screws back in there. A lot of times you'll see me take things apart with the little impact driver, little quarter driver. It's not overly strong, but usually power tools, depending, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's electric or air. I use those for disassembly and typically try and put a lot of the stuff together with hand tools. that still works. Primer bulb was nice and supple. It's not all hardened up and rotten. Oh. Yep. What did I say about doing things twice? Forgot to put that ignorant screw and nut in the chain brake lever. So off the top comes again. Okay, get that in there. See what I'm doing? Yeah. So it goes through the handle. It goes through a little piece on the recoil starter, and it goes through that little heat shield in there. I got to get everything lined up. At the same time, get it in there. You know, this saw got very hot. Even that little piece is melted too. Shows evidence of excessive heat. We get our needle nose. I'm probably going to block you guys. Try and get it started on that screw. Did we get it? Yep, it's threading in. Well, that could have been worse. But we won. Okay, nice and tight. Now the cover can go on. Everything's on, good fit. Spin the screw backwards, get it to drop in its first thread, and then you know you'll be okay. These ones here actually thread into a little metal nutsert inside there, a little sliding nut with threads in it, so that should be good. Lots of compression in this saw, so I know it wasn't run with straight gas. Alright, hope we get the bar and chain put back on there. And actually what I'm going to do is I'll do a little bit of work on that bar and chain first. And take some footage, maybe get this stuff blown out. I don't want to take it apart again and again and again, so I'll clean out the bar, get the chain ready to go, and I'll get some footage of that before we fire it up. I didn't take any video of me blowing it out. I just blew it out the compressed air. Now it's time to put things together. So we'll just get this lined up. Don't want to tighten this all the way up yet. It's got to be a little loose so we can adjust the chain. Run our adjuster forward so we get kind of close. Still way off. There we go. So usually when you are adjusting your chain, usually the saw is in this position. You have to lift the bar, and on this one you just roll the knob forward to tighten it. But on most chainsaws, it's got a nut here, and there's a screw either on this side of the bar or on the inside of the bar. It's a flathead screw, and you just adjust that. The tighter you tighten that screw, the tighter the chain goes, because it actually forces the bar away from the power head. On this saw, it's just a little thumb wheel at the back, but you do have to lift the bar, because if you adjust it in that position, let's get you an angle on it. If you adjust in that position, the chain looks tight, but as soon as you go to use it, this bar will slide up and the chain goes slack right away. Here's a trick that I've been doing for a long time, is I'll set the tension on my chain. I get it kind of close, and then I just flip the saw over. I do it upside down. That way all the slack is at the top of the chain, the bar is in the up position, and at that point I can set my tension whatever I want. Not too tight. And then on this one here, you snug it with your fingers. On the other side, on a normal saw, you would have to use the wrench. That's snug, I don't like that. This chain has seen better days. It's full of dirt. It looks like somebody, previous owner, tried to use it as a trencher. We'll just loosen that up. Just a hair. One little notch on the adjuster. Good enough. Looks pretty good. Now this chain doesn't really matter too much because it's dull as anything. But if you are going to be moving the chain on your chainsaw, always pull from the back side of the tooth. If you slip, you slip. If the chain binds up, you'll just slip off the back of the chain. But if you're moving it in this direction and the chain binds up, your fingers can slip right into those sharp teeth. And chainsaw teeth are extremely sharp. This one here, I think it actually feels sharper this way. Yeah, it actually does. The backs of the teeth are actually sharper than the fronts of the teeth on this one here. That's how bad that one is. But in most cases, always from the top of the bar, move away from the power head when you're checking your tension, checking to make sure your chain is working fine. It's just a little safety tip there. It's it can get quite bloody if you don't do it that way. Alright, we're just about ready to get some premix in there. We're going to run 50 to 1 like it calls for. And we'll see if it fires up. I might have to pull it apart again and take the carb apart, but I'm willing to roll the dice on this one. I want to spend the least amount of time as I can. And get it for sale and get it out of here. Alright, we'll get you set up and get some petrol in it. Alright, so I got some premix in there, put a little bit of oil in the reservoir for the bar oil. Should run them dry. Just it wears that chain out like crazy, so we'll see how it goes. On, prime it, choke. Overall, a success. Once I get it warmed up and everything, it probably needs a little bit of tuning, but I call it the Ronald McDonald. So where are you? What are you looking at? Oh, here. I call this the Ronald McDonald's because it's red and yellow, and I don't know. That bar is pretty hot from it freewheeling. Had a bit of a bog there at high end. I didn't put much fuel on it, just a splash, so oh yeah, we're out. That'll do it. So all in all, it's going to get a little bit of a cleanup, and I'll throw it up for sale. I don't even know what this was worth new, but got to do a little bit of research and see what they were asking for them new, and see what I can get for it. And that will fund the next project. Use the money from this to buy another one, buy something else. See what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into. Thanks for joining me, guys. This one's a wrap. Nice, quick, short one. And well, I'm going to sharpen the chain later, anyways. But I wasn't going to film that. Sharpen the chain, get it ready. That way I can sell it in good working order, because that's what I want. I won't sell junk. Got to make sure that everything is actually good with it. And move on to the next one. Thanks, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if there's anything specific you want me to look at. I'll see if I can get something arranged. And we'll see how it goes. See where this project takes us. Take care, guys.